fans, UFC 279 is in the books, and guys, it was one hell of a fight. You know, it was one hell of a fight. All things considered, you know, these guys were not really supposed to fight each other. Tony Ferguson and Nate Diaz were not supposed to go head to head with each other. But nonetheless, it was still really good. Still really good. You know, there was only 24 hours for this fight that got put together. You got Nate Diaz, who was training for a high level grappler. You got Tony Ferguson, who was not training for a southpaw, and you know things happened. We already know what went down with Hamzat Chimaev missing weight. So yeah, it was definitely. This could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse if you guys really think about it. You know, at the end of the day, the card was saved. Everybody's fights were saved. Nobody had to leave. The worst case scenario was, you know, they had to train. Well, they didn't have time to train at all, and we still end up getting the fights. Maybe not what we want to see, but definitely, I love this fight. I was talking this fight up. Nate Diaz, Tony Ferguson. You know, I really enjoyed this fight. So how'd it go? Well, Nate Diaz definitely looked good. Nate Diaz looked good. You know, like I said, all things considered, he was not training for a striker. He was training for a grappler. We already know how Hamzat Chimaev was going to do, what he was going to do. He was going to try to take Nate Diaz to the ground. And Nate Diaz is a notorious slow starter, very notorious slow starter. So, you know, he definitely needed some time to pick it up. But, you know, with that crazy shin, oh my God, you know, you saw it. He was able to check Tony Ferguson's kick, opened up that big old gash in his shin. Ooh, looked nasty. That thing was just pouring out blood over and over again. Nate Diaz's boxing was crisp, even though it's always crisp. I mentioned this to you guys multiple times. He's trained with high-level boxers before. He trained with the Olympic gold medalist, pound-for-pound king, Andre Ward before. So he is no punk to that. But again, he did mention that he wasn't training, you know, his striking all that much. And it kind of showed. Nate Diaz did look a little rusty a little bit. He definitely did look somewhat I don't want to say out of shape, but he definitely looked a lot slower than usual. But I think that's because he definitely packed on the muscle. He came in there with a different game plan. You know, the guy that he was going to go against, Hamzat Chimaev, he was actually a much bigger opponent. You know, he's bigger, stronger, and he was training for that. He wasn't training for somebody who was going to be fast on his feet, and that's what Tony Ferguson is. He's very fast on his feet. He likes to strike you. He can do all these crazy maneuvers. You saw it. And I think it wore Nate Diaz out just a little bit, all that movement, because he wasn't preparing for that. He really wasn't. So, but nonetheless, he still looked good. His boxing was crisp. He was connecting with Tony Ferguson, especially towards those later rounds. Around 2, he picked it up. 3, he really picked it up. And then 4, yes, that's when we got the stoppage. We got the guillotine choke, and the fight was over. I believe that's the first time. I can't honestly think right now at the moment that Tony Ferguson has been stopped with the submission. You know, we saw his last fight, he was KO'd against Michael Chandler. And I think that was the first time he got stopped actually getting KO'd. So even look at Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira had him in a nasty armbar, and he couldn't tap. You know, he couldn't get Tony Ferguson to tap. And that says a lot for Nate Diaz. So one hell of a fight for Nate Diaz. One hell of a fight. I loved it, every bit of it. I love the fact that this was on his way out. And speaking of which, he did mention that this is his last fight in the UFC. That he is going to come back, which I always mentioned that he's always going to come back. He's not trashing the UFC, saying like, you know what, screw them. I'm going to leave them. Yeah, did they try to do him dirty? Very much so, very much so. You know, they could have given him this Tony Ferguson fight way before. You know, they didn't need to do this Hamzat Chimaev stuff, which I'll get into later on. But he definitely, you know, is talks about potentially coming back. He even talks about a Conor trilogy, which we all wanted to see. We've been wanting to see this for the longest time. Guys, you know, this fight, they fought in 2016 both times in that year, and they could have done it again. They could have had 3 trilogies in that year, but now here we are. What are we going on? Almost, well, actually last month was their anniversary, and we're already, 6 years later. And so that's what sucks about this whole potential of waiting. And we always push it to the side. Oh, it's always going to be there. Yeah, but maybe it's going to be there when these guys are much more older, much more slower, much more past their prime. You know, we wish we could have got it much sooner than this. But he says he's going to come back, and he says he wants to do it, a part 3 with Conor McGregor. So that's another thing. So but Nate Diaz stepping away is not a bad thing. You know, this guy, he wants to go off and try different things. Sometimes doing the same thing over and over again, it does get repetitive and it does get boring, and you don't find that thrill anymore. So maybe that's what he needs. He wants to go box this potential boxing match with Jake Paul that's been talks about for, like, I want to say, what, a year, maybe longer. Then he's always been a jiu-jitsu, a brilliant jiu-jitsu artist, you know, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and maybe he wants to do some of those things, be competitive in those things. You know, I really feel like this right now is based more around boxing. You know, he really, really, truly wants to box. So being out of his contract, and then we hear this conversation that we heard with Dana White talk at the press conference. He's all for it. Now he's also talking about doing his promoting license. Like, he wants to be his own promoter. I believe it's called Real Fights. Real Fights. I don't see him being like a promoter trying to be like the UFC. I think he is gonna go for like a more smaller league. I think like Uriah Faber, he has a smaller league. You know, a few other fighters tried that. Some of them didn't succeed very well at a higher level, but as a lower level, yeah, you know, he does have a lot of guys. He knows a lot of guys. He knows obviously about the fight business, and maybe he also wants to be his own promoter as well. Try to go that boxing route where he doesn't want to have to pay anybody else extra to try to get him fights. He feels like he could do it himself, which is cool. You know, keep all the money for yourself. Don't get the management, don't get the agent, and don't do uh be your other promoters. Be your own boss. Keep all the money to yourself, you know, because Nate Diaz has no strangers to this game. He's been around for a very long time. And the fact that he's able to promote himself, like, good God, when you know Nate Diaz is fighting, that's it, really. He really don't even have to do anything. If you guys really think about it, Nate Diaz is a fighter himself and a promoter himself. He be able to sell that. That thing is always going to sell. Look it. We were all looking that this was going to fight Chimaev. He was going to fight Chimaev, but look what ended up happening. He fought Tony Ferguson. It didn't miss a beat, you know. So that's what I'm saying. When it comes to Nate Diaz, he is definitely one hell of a fighter. One hell of a fighter. One is going to be one hell of a promoter. He's definitely going to be missed in the UFC. That's for sure. You know, I wish we would have got that rematch with Jorge Masvidal. That great fight we could have had with Dustin Poirier. Even Michael Chandler called him out. That would have been another fun one. And I wish we would have got the Tony Ferguson one earlier. But nonetheless, it definitely went the way I think most of us would have expected to go. Wish they would have got it a little sooner. We saw these guys like to play around a little bit, but if Nate Diaz would have lost, I'd much rather him lose to another OG. This is how all these fighters who are on their way out should go. They shouldn't be going against a prime fighter, a guy that's going to probably destroy them, a guy that's going to probably build their name off of them. No, like, let these guys go out, you know, fighting somebody that, you know, they were always supposed to fight, or fighting somebody on that same level. They don't need to go in there and try to prove that they could beat these younger guys, you know, like Khamzat Chimaev. So I'm really happy it worked out this way. I really, truly am. But let me know what you guys think. How happy are you that Nate Diaz is going to go off and do his own thing? How happy are you guys that this is his performance, that he performed one hell of a fight, that he did one hell of a great job against Tony Ferguson? Do you agree or disagree? Maybe you guys disagree. Maybe you guys are not that happy with this fight. Maybe you guys wish he would have fought Chimaev instead, and so forth. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you guys think of the fights. Let me know what you guys think of his decision to leave the UFC, to be a promoter, to be a boxer, to be another competitive jiu-jitsu artist. And let me know what you guys think. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he doesn't go. Maybe Dana White pulls him to the side and says, hey, you know what? Here you go. $20 million to stay. Boom. There you go. So you never know. You never know. But again, great, one hell of a fight. One hell of a night with Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson. These guys gave it all and they left it all. And I was very, very excited, and it was a very fun fight for them to see. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.